If I can give everybody's attention, please. Meeting number 8 is now called to order. This is April 18, 2016. It is 5:30 p.m. in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. Would you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kathleen, can we do roll call?
Fleming,
Here.
McCampbell,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Wilson. Here. Davidson.
Here.
Tonight we have 3 Mayor's Awards, and I'm excited to be giving these out tonight. The first recipient is not you, Rob.
Maybe next time.
No, I doubt it.
No.
Anyways, I shouldn't do that. Anyways, tonight, one of the recipients is, this guy is committed to Burlington with some of his development, as well as the fact that the last time I saw a picture of you, it was in somebody's house, and he was a Greyhound with a bunch of them holding sledgehammers or something like that. And this guy, he's in just as good a shape now, which really, I don't think I want to give him this. I think I'll just, no. I'm really excited to give this to him, and I'm glad to say that he's my friend. Be it known that on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. Your commitment to this community and your passion to make old things like new help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On April 18, 2016, this Mayor's Award is presented to Arthur Gordon. Would you come up, Art? How you doing? All right. Would you mind having a few words, please? On the other side, yeah, on the other side, everybody does that.
Well, basically, I just want to thank the council, thank the mayor for giving me, I guess, this opportunity to either give back or show my expression of being there for others and for my city. I appreciate y'all, and I know your job ain't easy, but I take my hat off to you for the great things that you do for us.
Thank you, sir.
And you likewise, sir.
Appreciate you. This next Mayor's Award, I couldn't decide on who to give it to, and it became brutally honest that I had to give it to both of them. They are longtime friends of the McCampbell families and longtime friends of the city of Burlington. They do so much, and I'm really excited to be giving this award tonight to some dear friends. Be it known that on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you both for being model Burlingtonians. Your commitment to the citizens of Burlington, your compassion for your fellow man, and as well as your integrity help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. And for the record, because of you, I am the designated steak griller for the McCampbell family. On April 18, 2016, this Mayor's Award is presented to Burton and Joanne Prue. Would you two please come up? Would you guys please? You're gonna let her, she's gonna let you speak, Bert.
Well, thank you very much. We're honored, and in order to accomplish things, what actually has to happen, you gotta have pretty girls like this, like my daughter and my wife, that are actually the ones doing the work. The other thing I might comment is, I've seen quite a few of these awards come across the street, and it's kind of nice to receive it when you know you're getting it, so. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I still don't know what you did to get Joe, but I'll tell you. Should I turn that up? Okay. This last one, again, I thought today was just a great day for Mayor's Awards, but this last one, it was another deal, kind of like the Prues. I couldn't give it to one person, and this group, the reason why this came up is because over the 2 weeks before I made this out, I had counted up 12 people that had been helped, their life was saved, or something they owned had been protected by the Burlington Fire Department. So be it known, on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you all for being model Burlingtonians. On behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, this mayor's award is presented to Darrell Bailey, Robert Burnt, Eric Bullinger, Andrew Crooks, Mark Crooks, Trevor Detman, Kylan Detlinger, David Ewinger, Robert Giesman. If I say any of these wrong, I'm sorry, gentlemen. Christian Halleck, Stephen Hemme, Greg Higdon, Stephen Hoshek, Brandon Howard, Wayne Kroll, Kirk Logan, Brian Lures, Timothy McAllister, Jeffrey McGee, Andrew Niebergall, Jeremy Owens, Christopher Parker, Jason Ramus, Brian Reich, Jared Ruerda, Lyle Rawson, Brett Rudy, Jacob Ruth, Donald Ryan, I'm getting there, I'm almost there, Kevin Scott, Roger Siefkin, Nathan Skiffstad, Greg Smith, Luke Sneller, Jesse Teeter, Nathan Toops, Matthew Trexel, Todd Van Scoy, Jason Wagoner, Matthew Welch, Jeff Werner, Todd Winnie, Bruce Workman, and Dana Hunter. That's the Burlington Fire Department. On April 18, 2016, this mayor's award is presented to the Burlington Fire Department. Who do I have here? How many guys do I got? Come on then. You guys are gonna be saving me one of these days. I hope it's down the road, but man, I know I'm gonna be in good hands. Thanks all of you for coming.
Ready? No hiding in the back. Okay.
Thank you. Man, that's rocking, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Chief.
I just have a few words, and Burton kind of took some of my thunder there. Kind of the same kind of feeling for me, you know, for the work that we do. These are the guys that do all the work, and I'm very fortunate to work with count 44 co-workers, outstanding co-workers, from the firefighter on up to the deputy chief. I have a great bunch of people to work with, and I'm very lucky for that. Just a few things I thought of is people are always asking us, what do you guys do down there 24 hours a day? What are you doing? Well, we're either preparing to go on some kind of emergency, we're going on an emergency, or we're recovering or picking up our mess from the last response that we went on. Just this afternoon, this shift right here, they were in a 1 hour period. They had 3 ambulance calls, and then they had a mutual aid house fire call down in Weaver. So I'm sitting down there with myself and Dana, and I think the battalion chief was left. And that's some stuff that happens, that's typical of what these guys are doing. Our call numbers from about 20 years ago, about what we used to do. The skills that, especially our paramedics, I've been doing EMS reports, doing the quality checks. So I read through and see what they're doing on calls. And I'm amazed at some of the stuff that they do in the field. I'm a paramedic, but I wouldn't attempt to do a lot of the things that these young guys are doing in the field. Life-saving things they're doing constantly. So the skills are more, the calls are more. I'll talk about that in my annual report later. But so while that kind of stuff, the numbers might be impressive, the real reason that they deserve recognition is just what the mayor was saying, is the help that they do. They serve people, and that's really the business that we're in, is serving people. And I don't think there's anybody better than these guys back here. Not just these guys, but the other 2 shifts as well. So thank you very much for the award, and I'm accepting it on their behalf.
Awesome.
Well
Thank
said,
you.
Chief.
Before you give them a round of applause, I'm sorry. I forgot to say one thing. Linda's mother, and that's all I can give, but she said somebody would know. Linda told me to say, make sure you tell the fire department. Her mother's a lot sweeter than that. I guess she came and she was just railing on them, and she said everybody was so professional. They just acted like she was reading them something out of the Bible, but she said she gave it to them but good anyhow. And Linda told me to tell you guys that her mother normally is a sweetheart, and she appreciated everybody that treated her still so sweet. So I just want to throw that out there as well. Thank you so much. We'll give you a chance for those, the Mayor's Awards. If you guys want to get on out of here, we can let you get on out of here right now. And thank you again for coming down. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Construction. Okay, we're gonna, they turn this up? Okay, we're gonna move right along. Next, we have some proclamations.
Your Honor, whereas the vast majority of the youth are concerned, knowledgeable, and responsible citizens, and whereas the accomplishments and achievements of these young citizens deserve recognition and praise of their elders, and whereas Optimus International has since 1954 developed and promoted a program entitled Youth Appreciation Week, and whereas the citizens of Burlington, Iowa have indicated a desire to join with the Optimist in expressing appreciation and approval of the contributions of youth, now therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Burlington, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the week of April 24th through April 30th, 2016 as Youth Appreciation Week in Burlington, Iowa. By this action, let it be known that we have faith in the ability of today's youth as they assume responsible roles in the future of mankind. Signed and sealed the 18th day of April 2016, Shane McCampbell, Mayor. And let's see, Jamie Blow and Shauna Brown, are you here?
Jamie's here.
Jamie's here. Thank you. Want to say a few things?
I'm so glad you stayed at Burlington.
On behalf of the Burlington West Burlington Optimist Club, I want to thank you for the proclamation. There was about 70 students between Mediapolis, Danville, Burlington, Notre Dame, and West Burlington that applied, and 7 of them will be getting scholarships. There'll be a grand total of $7,000 that will be given out, or I'm sorry, correct me, $5,000 that will be given out. I wish it was 7,000, but that's just the optimist in me. We'll actually have four $500 scholarships, 2 $750 and 1 $1,500 scholarship. And it's really outstanding to see. You always hear about the bad youth, or this person's getting in trouble, that person's getting in trouble, but it's really outstanding to like read through these applications. You're like, holy cow, how does this kid have time to like do schoolwork? Where do they find a job? How do they? And I'm amazed that 70 kids in 1 year applied between juniors and seniors, and to see that they are striving to better themselves and make their college resumes look very impressive. So thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Jamie, the Charles without legs, that joke went over great at church. We have another proclamation.
Yes, Your Honor. Whereas the American Bankers Association's Education Foundation established the National Teach Children to Save Day to spotlight the importance of teaching our nation's youth about saving money. They have set aside April 29th, 2016 for bankers across America to teach young people about how money works and how to use it wisely. And whereas, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, our small, low national savings rate rivals the rates during the Great Depression. And whereas the current economy, rising number of Americans' personal bankruptcies, especially with young adults under 25 years of age, college students graduating with increasing student loan debt, the increase in consumer credit card debt, the lack of school personal finance classes, and the lack of adequate retirement savings emphasizes the importance of introducing children to the concept of saving money as a first step to their healthy financial future. And whereas recognizing that young Iowans are our leaders of tomorrow, bankers and the Iowa Bankers Association are taking a stand to combat financial illiteracy. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Burlington, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2016 as Teach Children to Save Day. Good savings habits start early, and healthy money skills last a lifetime. Signed and sealed this 18th day of April, 2016, Shane McCampbell, Mayor. I don't know
Who's going to receive this for us today? Okay. Oh, everybody's so excited. All right. Really, who has to do it?
Not me. All right, go for it.
reports at their schools. We have 7 schools.
Awesome.
Hello, I am Brady from Saving After Sports for Kids Day. This year we have 80 student customers have been open 22 times, deposited $6,008.35. Grand total saved $21,808.61. Our school grown-up staff has 17 customers who have saved $8,770.68. Thank you.
Good job. I think that's me.
No, it's not. She's adjusting it up there.
That was for my cloud.
Hello, I am Carmen from Blackhawk Family Trust. This year we have 158 customers. We've been open 19 times. We've deposited $12,211.02. Our grand total saved is $42,339.06.
What?
Our school grown-up educator staff has 23 customers who saved $12,569 this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. All right.
Hello, I'm Catherine from Sunnyside Super Savers Bank. This year we have 149 customers. We have been open 25 times, and we have deposited $8,096.90. Our grand total saved is $32,629.65.
Wow.
Our school grown-up educator staff has 14 customers who saved $6,261.90 this year. Do you have any questions?
Outstanding, young lady.
Good job.
Hello, I'm Dylan from Notre Dame Discount Bank. This year we have had 125 customers and have been open 26 times. We have deposited $15,545.05. Our grand total saved is $66,674.36. Our school grown-up and educator staff has 8 customers who saved $4,485. Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Is that your dad taking a picture of you? I went to high school with him.
Hello, my name is Matthew Palmer from Northville Schools, our Future Savings Bank. This year we have 102 customers, been open 21 times, deposited $4,160.45. Grand total saved $9,856.74. Our school grown-up staff has 18 accounts who have saved $9,210 this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Hello, I'm Bailey from Grimes Bulldog Bank. This year we have 72 student customers. We have been open 20 times and have deposited $1,891.03. The grand total saved was $8,398.03. Our school grown-up educator staff has 8 customers who have saved $2,285 this year.
Awesome.
Hello, I'm David from GRCS School Bank. This year we have 54 student customers, been open 19 times, deposited $4,991.16 with a grand total save of $22,140.53. Our school grown-up staff has 6 customers who saved $4,440 this year.
Good job. Good job, guys.
Okay, I'm Vicki. You guys have seen me for several years, and I'm glad that you invited us back to recognize the National Teach Children to Save Day. I'm Kids Bank Coordinator at FNM Bank, and we want to thank you for the proclamation. And I'm going to total up all the numbers here, and this does include West Burlington. So total, we have 170 employees, and all they do is they work at the board table and the teller table. They have rotation. And then we have 858 students that are customers in Burlington, West Burlington area, the elementary school. This year year so far, we've been open 171 times at the banks, and just this year alone, and they have a $25 maximum the kids do, $61,663.63. And total on deposit, the elementary kids have, are you ready for this? $231,905.43.
Goodness gracious, we can fix Cascade Bridge, guys.
Hey, I never thought of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We also have the grown-ups, the employees, have the ability to also participate in the program. We have 106 staff members, and they've saved just this year $49,864. So,
Wow.
want to thank you guys again. Thank the parents, the kids who are board of directors and tellers have to arrive at school early, and the F&M Bank, CL, and C.E. Walsh. We also have a team bank now at the schools, at the middle schools, so we are able to continue on teaching the students to continue to save money. We always say you're never too old or too young to save money. You guys have any questions for us?
No, but I would like to thank all these young people for coming, being bold enough to stand up here and talk to us, so thank you, kids.
Charlie's gonna.
Young adults, I guess.
I'm Charlie Walsh. I just want to say thank you very much. Very proud of receiving this reward. Like they said before, the ladies are doing the work and I'm gonna get the credit. Vicki did say that we're in the middle schools. Also, we're in 2 high schools and we're waiting on the 3rd one.
Sweet.
Right now, we have all of the grade schools and all of the middle schools in Burlington, West Burlington.
Great.
So
Great.
we thank you.
Thank
you.
John.
Thank you.
Can I, before you guys leave, but I'm gonna let you guys get out of here, but can I get all the kids, can I get you guys to come over here and get a picture taken with me, please? I sure would appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. Man, you guys are awesome. I had antennas for him, but I took him down. And thank you guys. Can I shake your hand? Thank you so much. Thank you. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. Those of you that are still here, you can clap for them one more time.
Mayor, look like the paparazzi over there.
Leave it to parents, man. They like to get that stuff. Good to see you, Chad.
Oh my, look at this.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Clear out the.
Matt. Why did I say Mike?
Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Walsh.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Mayor, you know how to empty out a council chambers, don't you?
Man, that's, my sister says all I gotta do is breathe in the morning. Let's move. Let's move. All right. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1, consent agenda, having been discussed, are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, and if a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent agenda, we have the usual finances and miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. We have 4 resolutions. The first is a resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. The second is a resolution approving engagement letter with Jaffrey and Company to serve as underwriter for the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series 2016 A and B. The third is a resolution approving an amendment to the agreement with Piper Jaffrey and Company to serve as dissemination agent for secondary market disclosure. And the fourth is a resolution awarding contract for the 2016 3rd Street and Washington Street parking deck repair project. And we also have a public hearing set for May 2nd, 2016. It's a consideration of a general obligation parking lot improvements loan agreement and principal amount not to exceed $70,000. And Mayor Pro Tem, we also have 2 appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. The Library Board of Trustees were Martin Salito Hug and Jerry Parks have been appointed, and the Parks Advisory Committee, Mark Miller and Linda Errold. Reappointed.
Excellent. Thank you for your service. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to have any of these removed from the consent agenda? I see none. Council?
Can I have a motion to approve all listed under item 1 consent agenda?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Kathleen?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is consideration of a sale of conveyance of real property, approximately 0.184 acre parcel located south of Agency Road and east of North Roosevelt Avenue. Publication's been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed by law. Those for and against will be heard at this time. Mr. Tisland.
Or me.
Or Mr. Jim.
Yeah, this is a piece of property that was purchased from the owners of the land that Walgreens sits on. The purpose of the purchase and then now the transfer to the developers of this project site is to allow for an access point to the manor area that is immediately across from the entrance to the former, oh my goodness, I can't believe
Kmart.
that, Kmart site where Dick's and several of the other locations are. In order to get that traffic flow through, again, we needed this access point to be the one that would serve there. We couldn't have another access point along with these 2 access points that Walgreens currently has on that side. As we move forward, we'll see, we're hoping to see a closure this week on the overall project. This was one of the final steps that needed to be done. As you note here, it's talking about the sale has the preferred price, or the price in there at $2 a square foot, which matches what was in the development agreement that was approved by the council for the overall manor site back in November, December 2015.
Any questions from the audience? Any concerns? I see none. Council?
All right, I have a motion to close.
Second.
Kathleen?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
I have a resolution approving the sale and conveyance of real property, approximately .184 acres, parcel located south of Agency Road and east of North Roosevelt Avenue.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen?
Get her done.
I do want to point out on this, there is still a lien on this property. That has to do with the overall loan on the Walgreens development. We're still trying to get that released as part of this process, and it's part of one of the last things that has to happen in order for us to do the full transfer over. But this sort of sits there in abeyance, waiting for that to occur. I don't know that abeyance is the right word, but whatever.
So no delays. We can
Do you
just
have
keep
an
rolling.
estimate on when that might happen?
You know what, we'd love to have had it happen a month ago.
Right.
And what we've done is had to work with the developer's attorney. Our attorney has worked with them, and we have talked about different alternatives if we need to go through some sort of a stopgap measure to make this whole project work. The preferred route is to make this all happen though
Right.
this way. Just so you know, there is the potential that you end up seeing other steps taken as we go through this process and as an alternative.
Any questions from the audience? Council? We're good? Kathleen?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
All right, moving forward on that. Next is, this time set for a hearing for consideration of a permanent encroachment agreement with Downtown Partners, Inc. for encroachment into city right-of-way for the Burlington Lightscape project. Publication's been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed by law. Those for and against will be heard at this time. Mr. Tisland?
Yes, this is an encroachment agreement specifically for the Lightscape project. It includes several properties in and around the downtown area, 1 through 9 listed on this map on the handout. I can go through them as well. St. Paul's Catholic Church at 508 North 4th, Christ Episcopal at 623 North Fifth, First Presbyterian at 321 North Fifth, First United Methodist Church, 421 Washington, Zion United Church of Christ, 402 North Fifth, First Congregational Church, 313 North Fourth, First United Church of Christ, 611 Columbia, the Heritage Center Museum, the former Public Library at 501 North Fourth Street, and Majestic Estates, the former German Methodist Episcopal Church at 621 Washington. This encroachment is for light poles, bases, and light fixtures and equipment. For each property, a lot of the equipment will be within the property boundaries and on the buildings, but there are some instances in each of these cases where they have light poles in the city right-of-way based on the location of the building to shine on the steeples and prominent features of each of the buildings. All work within the right-of-way shall be in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations and receive all permits. They have received a right-of-way permit. It does meet our standards for that. A couple of the primary notes on it: all encroachments shall maintain a minimum 5-foot unobstructed sidewalk clearance on all sidewalks for pedestrian traffic, and shall be located a minimum of 1 foot from the street curb line in all instances. Also, all encroaching light poles shall include a placard on the pole stating the contact of the adjacent property for information on underground private electrical utility locations. If the encroachment's no longer needed or become outdated, it is the responsibility of the properties to remove those, but hopefully this will continue for quite some time. It's not intended that would be taken over by the city. These are private, is a private project for each of these buildings and kind of under the purview of the Lightscape Committee. So if you have any questions on that or want to see individual properties, I can show those as well. But again, the light poles are intended to light up the steeples and prominent features on these buildings downtown, and kind of a very unique project that people have been working a long time to raise a lot of funds to do. So we hopefully will see some results here in the next few months.
When do they plan to turn on the lights?
Steve Freevert from
Oh, Steve.
Downtown Partners might be able
That's
to
why I
answer some of that.
Hi, Steve.
Steve Freeman, Executive Director of Downtown Partners. We're thinking June. We have no way of knowing what we might run into once they start doing some drilling. I know over by St. Paul's, they hit bedrock very quickly. So there's no way of knowing, but thinking sometime in June.
Okay,
Definitely
good.
sometime this summer.
It's gonna be a great project.
That is
I think
gonna be
so, too.
awesome.
I'm looking forward to
Well, I
it.
think it's been about 4 years since we started working on this.
Yeah.
It's not been an easy project, but I think the results will be pretty remarkable.
Oh, yeah, no question.
A lot of hard work for some great people. I'm amped up. I can't wait till June personally.
Yeah. I hope June.
Right.
Well, I can't wait till summer, till we get the lights, so. Any other questions for Steve?
No questions.
Any questions or comments from the audience? I see none from Mr. Ruberg. All right. Council? We're good.
Good.
Okay.
Have a motion to close?
Second.
Kathleen?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Have a resolution approving a permanent encroachment agreement with Downtown Partners Inc. for encroachment on the city right-of-way for the Burlington Lightscape project.
Second.
Moving second. Let's take it to vote.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
All right, looking forward to lights. Moving right along. This is time set for a hearing for consideration of an annual consolidated transit funding application. Publication's been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed by law. Steve?
Mayor and City Council, this is an annual process we follow at this time each year, and the identified money this year for the state operating assistance is 1.52319%. Estimated that it will total about $226,397. The federal transit assistance amount is at $392,965. This also talks about the possibility of 5 buses, which would total an estimated $658,500. And typically there's 85% funding on that, so the city's obligation would be $98,775. Now, reality is we put that in case money monies are available, the likeliness of getting one bus will be doing good, two would be stretching it, so. And I will emphasize, this is a much needed source of revenue to, keep the, bus transit system operating.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Looks like all the audience are us. Okay, council?
Do we have money in the budget for that?
We didn't budget for 5, we budgeted for 2. Again, I don't think we'll get 5. If we do, we'll find a way to make 5 happen. We need to get buses replaced.
Yeah.
It's
I know that's
extremely
true.
important.
Your Honor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Kathleen?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye. Your Honor, I move to approve the resolution of annual consolidated transit funding application.
Second.
Moved in second, let's take it to vote.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Okay, nice to have it.
Ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I move for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 3360, being an ordinance creating the Burlington Crossing PUD Plan Unit Development by making changes in section 5E signage.
Second.
No changes from the previous reading. Again, this was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission 6-0. It's some minor changes to the PUD language in the Burlington Crossing PUD, bringing it more in line with some of our other PUDs along Roosevelt Avenue. It changes the maximum height of the shared pole signs to 50 feet, which is consistent with our code, and the individual lot signs to 25 feet, which is consistent with our code and some other PUDs on the south side of Burlington along Lawrence Avenue, and then stating the separation between signs as well. So relatively minor changes, brings it more in line with our code. The previous ordinance was a little more restrictive based on the discussion with the previous developer of the site.
Any questions from the audience? Lovely audience tonight. Council?
I'm going to entertain this motion to amend for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 3360, being an ordinance creating the Burlington Crossing PUD Plan Unit Development by making changes in section 5E signage to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading, and for final adoption of an ordinance amending section number 3360, being an ordinance creating the Burlington Crossing PUD Plan Unit Development by making changes to section 5E signage.
Second.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
And as amended?
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Okay, good deal.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving preliminary official statement. I don't know what
Second.
that means, but
Second.
They're all about to find out.
We're about to find out.
I can hardly
you-
wait.
Hopefully you read the preliminary official statement that was in the
I
reader
memorized it,
file.
in fact,
Good,
but
I'm
then I
glad.
forgot it.
Okay, glad to know. This is for the borrowing of $1,295,000 GO Corporate Purpose Bond, Series 2016A, and $2,260,000 a GO Refunding Bond, Series 2016B. That's a refunding of the 2007 bonds. For savings, we're looking at, the potential savings is a little over 5% on those bonds with the refunding. That will be something that Travis brings forward as we get closer to sale time, and to see if we do actually have those identified savings there. We entertained that refunding last year and ultimately did not do it. We were not quite up to that 5% savings amount, and the decision was made to wait until a future year. The items that are included in the $1,295,000 borrowing out of our CIP plan for fiscal year 2017 included $140,000 for the purchase of an ambulance. That was estimated $198,000. I think the actual bid price was $195,000. Towards the main resurfacing project, $482,000, just shy of that, for, that was Mount Pleasant Street resurfacing. That is a overall $1.7 million project. The majority of that fund is coming through Southeast Iowa Regional Planning. Some of it is, that's a cost share also with the city of West Burlington, so they'll have a local match on that too. Our regular rehab program, a little over $500,000, $501,477 actually. Miscellaneous street upgrade program, $52,000. And the last portion was for parking lot improvements, $62,000. You might have noticed on the consent agenda, we had setting a public hearing for up to $70,000. That is for this item. When the public hearings were done originally, they were all done as essential corporate purpose, and this was identified as a street project. This is a general corporate purpose parking lot, so we have to do a separate hearing on that. It doesn't keep us from taking the steps we're doing. It's just something that we'll have to get that public hearing held, and you'll have to do the actual authorization of that after the public hearing in order to include that in this borrowing. And I think that is it for what I have. Again, as we've talked about, we've tried to keep our bonding done in a way that that allows us, so as we do our 5-year CIP plan, we look at what can we borrow each year and make sure that we don't go over that 70% usage of our debt capacity. This won't violate that. This also is being financed in a way that allows us to maintain our levy amount for debt service over the long term. We do have a cliff that goes out to, I think, 2023 on our debt schedules. That's far enough out there that I have no idea what we look like as we get to that, but our hope is that we'll be able to, when we reach that fiscal year 2023, be able to see an adjustment in what we're having as a levy for debt service.
What was I thinking 2021? What's 2021?
That's its 5-year CIP plan is 17 through 21 that we've looked at. But the cliff is from back in 2011. The final payment on that was either 2022 or 2023. And just going off the top of my head, I think it was 2023. But it's far enough out that we're not planning on projects and looking at what our debt service levy could potentially be at that point. And I think that's enough information for now. Did you have any questions?
Did I understand something about a ratings?
Yes, we
call?
did a ratings call this last week with Standard & Poor's. Stephanie and I got to participate in that. I haven't heard anything back. I think that we were asking for a rating call back by tomorrow. So we'll see where we come in. And that's part of this process of deciding what our repayment schedule will tentatively look like, whether we can actually get the identified savings or not on that refinancing.
Thank you.
Anybody questions from the audience? Council? Okay. Let's take it to vote.
Fleming.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Next resolution.
Okay, Your Honor, I have a resolution awarding contract for the 2016 Seal Coat Streets reconstruction project. Sorry about that.
Ryan.
Second.
Mayor, council, back to seal coat reconstruction. I took, what was it, about 2 years off with the exception of the emergency repairs to Main Drive through Crapo Park last summer. So this is a project for seal coat reconstruction, coming through, chewing up the old seal coat surface, recompacting and laying down new chips. Bids were received on April 6th. With W.L. Miller Company of Hamilton, Illinois being the low bid, with the crushed limestone and pea gravel. Bid with crushed limestone came in at $330,078.04. The bid for pea gravel was $337,447.54.
Love it.
Based on the bid prices, it's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to WL Miller Company, based on their pea gravel bid, for cover aggregate in the amount of $337,447.54. In the plans, it was stated that our intention is to either cut the project back to the budget or increase it to the budget. The construction budget for the project is $400,000. My staff is presently reviewing what seal coat streets we could add on to bring it as close to that as possible. Questions?
Good job.
What he said. Any questions from the audience? Mr. Rubert? All right. Council?
Thank you, Ray.
I'm real anxious to see what the pea gravel does as far as the dust and the holding together
Yeah,
compared to
that's
the
what I
other.
was thinking.
I'm excited that on the
I think
bid.
it's gonna make a world of difference. I'm confident it is.
Good?
Good.
Kathleen, let's take it to vote. Thank you, Ryan.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
All right, good deal.
Your Honor, I have a resolution awarding contract for the 2016 BN sanitary sewer repair project.
Second.
Thank you. Ryan?
Okay, this project is for repairs to what's known as the BN sanitary sewer. It's the sanitary dump sewer that parallels Burlington Northern railroad tracks below the bluff. It enters into the Hawkeye storm sewer. There's a sanitary pipe in the bottom corner of that. Just within that sewer, there are a couple of cleanouts that create a bottleneck in the storm sewer that has caused some upstream flooding of Brockway Company. Additionally, in that area, there's an old regulator chamber for when the system had a combined sewer overflow there. That regulator chamber has a 30-inch sanitary sewer pipe coming in, a 12-inch pipe going out. This upsize is that pipe to 30-inch, so it's consistent within the system, hoping to alleviate our SSO, sanitary sewer overflow situation there, and alleviate the upstream flooding of the storm sewer. Based on the engineer's estimate, it was below the threshold for formal bidding, so we mailed out the project for quotes. We received one quote back on April 6th from Able Inc. of Fort Madison, Iowa for quote price of $70,882.50. My original estimate on this was $38,000, so it was below that $40,000 threshold for formal bidding. I spoke with the project manager there, trying to figure out just why they came in so high compared to what my estimate was. There's a number of unknowns with the situation. They have to remove some shotcrete that's around the existing pipe. The strength of that shotcrete is highly variable from something that's relatively easy to remove to something that requires a whole lot more work. Additionally, between the regulator structure and the storm sewer, where they have to remove that 12-inch pipe, there's the potential for flowable mortar there, which also is fairly highly variable on strength, and that's the primary reasons why I was told that the bid was that high. Based on the specialty nature of the work and the issues of upstream flooding for Brockway and our ongoing sanitary sewer overflow issues, I begrudgingly, shall we say, recommend that the contract be awarded to Able Inc. In the amount of $70,882.50.
All right. I'm not going to answer questions from the audience. We all know there's nobody there. Council?
How critical is it that we get this done right away?
My understanding is Brockway's been flooded 3 times in the past 10 years. This past, what was it, August, I believe it was, they contacted us because they've just recently been flooded again. Each time they flooded, it's been around $150,000 worth of damage to their facility. We're in spring and weather's been highly variable the past few years.
I guess it's not critical, but it certainly is to them. And this has been an issue that we know is is a constraint point that is causing problems. At the same time, if you feel that you would like to see us go back out and rebid it, we can do that, but there's no guarantee that we'll get a better price. We could.
Or we could get an even worse price, is that?
Sounds,
It is
I don't,
possible. One thing, sorry, with the project, when it was sent out, we did have a completion date set for June 30th, so it would be done this fiscal year, mostly due to the concerns of Brockway being flooded again. Additionally, if we do go for formal bids, we'll have to go through a public hearing process, which tacks on about a month on that front end. So it does drag that out. So, like I said, they've been flooded 3 times in the past 10 years. That doesn't mean they won't get flooded next week. It doesn't mean they'll get flooded in the next 5. It's council's discretion how they'd like to proceed.
well, we also got there's no guarantee, which, well, I don't expect it, if we wait another year, for it to be any cheaper than what the initial hopeful bid, was to be, so, and what I'm starting to see a trend, and I don't know if it's something that is going to continue, but it does seem like, people are getting, contractors on lockdown a lot quicker, and, I don't know, it just seems, this isn't the first time that I've seen where we only had one bid.
It's been a more common trend in the past couple of years. The nature of this work is fairly specialty, and it is, for lack of a better term, small project. Dollar value doesn't necessarily show that, but it's a lot of effort for other companies that do the business to mobilize this far. Abolt's just in Fort Madison. I think the nearest other company that's capable of the work is minimum of 3 hours away. But if we were to rebid, we could remove that June 30th threshold for completion and extend that out further, which that may have been what scared off other bidders. So,
I think we have an obligation to do it. I mean,
We're not saying, or are you saying that Brockway is the only thing that's gonna benefit by doing this?
no. As a part of this, that area had that original CSO chamber. Presently, during rain events, our sanitary sewer system gets enough infiltration in it that we have a sanitary sewer overflow occur there. We are not presently under consent order to eliminate that sanitary sewer overflow, but it is something that needs to be addressed from a city standpoint. And it also allows that additional sewage to flow to the chamber, the detention tank that we have there at Lucas Street, and those flows will be measured as they leave the tank, albeit, basically, we're just relocating where that sanitary sewer overflow occurs, but we'll have a much better handle on what is actually occurring in the system. And it is a necessary step for the future when we are required to eliminate our SSOs.
Okay.
Which we will be. Questions? Any other questions, council? You guys good?
Well, since you reluctantly recommend it, then I will reluctantly approve it.
Kathleen, let's take it to vote.
Fleming,
aye.
McCampbell,
Reluctantly, yeah, aye.
Scott,
No.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan.
All right,
Your Honor, I have a resolution adopting the personal manual for non-union employees.
second?
Yes, second.
So the non-union manual is included in your packet. Basically, this is annually, we update this for the non-unions. So there's not a lot of changes, most of it's the same. What did change is I changed the pay plan, explained how we use the GovHR study, how we changed the way our ranges were, and talked about our job evaluation system that we use now. And then on section 4, the salary adjustments, it lists the transition table, the transition plan, and that anybody that's not falling under the transition plan will be given a 2.25% increase, which is the same as what all the union contracts are getting this also what has changed is under the insurance section, that was changed to match, what the current union contracts were negotiated at this year, which is 3% contribution, single not to exceed $20 and family not to exceed $40 per month. Other than that, vacation, longevity, everything else has stayed the same. Exhibit A has changed again to implement the GovHR salary levels, the minimums, the midpoints, and the maximum pay levels. Any questions?
I have none.
There were some jobs that were upgraded based on the skill that you used, correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's your feeling that everybody's through this will be brought up to a comparable salary range that is within the state in comparable jobs?
Well, the way our salary schedule was based is, we went out and got salary survey data from comparable cities, but we also looked at more internal also. So how that job scales with the responsibility compared to what other people in the city are being paid. But yes, I do think all those issues have been addressed. I know some of the positions that last year we were concerned with, they are what was discovered too during the salary study that needed to be bumped up, such as like Eric's position was one of them. I know last year you guys were concerned of where that was falling, and now that definitely is being bumped up.
So we have the same issue with the sergeants in the police department. Does that get corrected through this?
Yeah, I don't think we have the compression issues as much.
Didn't we already deal with the compression for the police department, though?
Yeah, I mean, this was part of it though, but I think, Doug, when you looked at it, did you have any concerns?
No, it did what we wanted it to do.
Okay. So the salaries were comparable within the city and within the state, with responsibilities within the city. It's a good thing. It's all a good thing. What about the other aspects of compensation, vacations, sick leave, insurance, that sort of thing? How did we compare? And are there any recommendations for adjustments in any of those areas, other than the 3% insurance that you?
No, I didn't have any recommendations. I know when GovHR they looked at our benefits too. They felt ours were comparable or even a little bit better than some of our comps. Does anything
They
stick out
did.
to
I
you?
think that the problem that in terms of the survey that was done, they did do some comparisons, but they did not do a thorough comparison in terms of trying to make some recommendations for adjustments to benefits. They were really charged with what was being done on the pay side. They did highlight, as Stephanie is pointing out, that they did do some base comparisons in their areas that they would say that we do tend to be we have a very good benefit plan. We probably do have a little bit better than the average benefit plan for our comparable cities. When it comes to the pay, we talked with them about wanting to try to make sure that we had positions that had comparability within. That was our biggest priority, was to make sure that as we looked at all of our non-union personnel, that we had good ranges between them that treated all of them fairly. We put that as a higher priority than having each position have comparable pay to the average positions across the state. So you're gonna see that we still have positions that are our salary range may be on the low end, and we did do some adjustments even as we went through the process to try where we had some that were identified that were that way, to try to at least get them within the range that they could be somewhat comparable. But I guess that we looked at that as something where we tried to look at what was affordable when we tried to do this too. And our biggest concern was to get that internal comparability. some of the positions may not have as good a comparability, though externally, as what others do. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but is that about right?
I know, I just found that section where it talks about the survey. Holidays, we offer 10 holidays and 2 personal days. The average comparables were 10 holidays and 1.9 personal days. Sick leave, we have 18 days annually compared to 16 days the other communities. So they just made a comment about our vacation. We're more generous early in the employee's tenure, but that we kind of lag as somebody's been here longer. They're getting more vacation at another comparable city. So, but other than that, there wasn't anything that stood out that we felt like we needed to adjust. As we went through union negotiations, there really was no adjustments either that were asked for. We did have
No.
one union ask for another holiday, but other than that, they didn't ask for any change in the structure of our other benefits. So that's why we did recommend it here. Stay comparable throughout the city internally.
I don't know, does that hit what you're getting at?
Pardon me?
Does that hit the concerns you
That's
have?
what I was getting at, so.
I did.
I think for some of the people that I've talked to, they wanted to know about the total compensation package and not just the wages. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that are upset that any employees are getting wages, but that's, you know, that there's people out there that think that way. My concern, as I said here, is to ensure that if we need to replace that person, that we can do it and have a fair and equitable wage, and that's why my
Yeah.
concern of being comparable with the rest of the state is so important to me.
I can think of a few positions that was brought up on, and we did make some adjustments where we could, but we also tried to be fair even in that process to make sure that we were true with the point breaks. And I think where we did that, all of those positions where that was the case were on the cusp between one band and another. And we looked at what we could do to modify the breaks between ranges in order to try to move those. Does that cover kind of what we did stuff?
Well,
So, yeah.
I've said on a couple of councils where we've gone through this exercise before, and we've made mistakes, and it's not in the survey. It was the ultimate decisions made by the council to cut those rates, and hope that in future years we can make that up. And it just seemed that we lagged further and further behind. And that's why I personally pushed to get this done, and now we just need to find a way to continue and to maintain this, and to keep a close eye on what our competitors are doing, so that we don't lag behind again. And I mean, we've got a great staff, and there's the non-union staff is tremendous. I just don't. I know that there are people that are going to retire one of these days before too long, and we've got to be in a position to put a person of that caliber and talent to fill that position. So.
Some people will just never be able to replace, my friend.
Yeah.
I have, right,
I'm done,
Okay.
thank you.
one of my concerns was that the non-union employees were paying part of their insurance coverage and unions weren't. And so I'm glad to see that rectified so that we're on an even basis. The Director of Public Works, will that be changed in title then, or?
The title, as we talked through that, and we may end up that being, again, Director of Public Works.
okay. All
But at Assistant City Manager for Public Works, we talked about, you did a rating scale on it, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, it fell almost the same. There were
Exactly,
a
pretty
few
much the
different
same
level.
changes if we didn't look for somebody that had like their professional, is it PE, the professional engineering certification? We were looking for them to take over a little more city manager roles, so that scoring kind of evened it out to be the same.
Okay.
So it will fall in that same range, that pay grade 11.
Okay.
And again, as we would hire somebody at that point, we would dictate what the title, their position title would be.
Great.
But yeah, at this time, GovHR, for the first
where I score, you know, the new position. I did it with the VM manager. Then they review it, they look at the job description, just to make sure we're all on the
Okay.
same
Oh,
page.
that's
we're
right,
all
I remember
thinking
they
the
said they
same.
could do that, yeah.
So now I've done it twice so far since the survey.
And even with the VM manager, you want to kind of review what we've done there that's different than what we were before?
Well, we had a position retire, at the end of April, they'll be retiring, and it was, the parks records supervisor, no, it wasn't a supervisor title.
Clerk?
Clerk, okay. And so, as that person retired, we decided to replace it with a non-union position of a vehicle maintenance manager. We've been wanting to look at that role, or that department, to have a little more oversight, have a direct manager managing it. So-
That position would then be the equivalent of what Braden is in property maintenance. Previously, Chris had responsibility for that, and I mean, that's just not really ideal. Chris has a little bit more time that's involved in sewers and streets, and it makes it kind of hard for him to be back managing the vehicle maintenance too. And I think it's evident that it suffered over the years as a result of that. So we looked as we looked to fill that position, to change that position. And it'll be at a higher pay scale, but we're also hoping to have that department do better than what it has been doing in terms of making sure that we have somebody who's actually day-to-day responsible for following workflow. We just haven't had that.
Any other questions for
That
Steph?
sounds good to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for staying on top of that, all of these things.
And I just want to throw this before we do take it to vote, or if you guys are welcome to say anything else too. Since you guys brought up your points, I just want to bring up this point again. To me, one of the drivers behind the study and some of the things that we were looking into with the insurance is the fact that we were thinking further ahead, and there was no way that we could continue to maintain paying that without getting some help from the city employees. So I just want to throw that out there, that was my main driver. It wasn't even about, it was just the fact that, you know, are we going to be able to take care of those bills down the road? So, anybody else? Okay. Kathleen?
Fleming.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
All right.
Your Honor, I have a resolution ratifying tentative agreement between the City of Burlington, Iowa, and Local 828 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, ALF-CIO.
Second.
Thank you.
You have a copy of the tentative agreement in your packet. A lot of the main points in here are very similar for ASME as they were with CWA, and I hate FF. I can't believe I can't do that. The main things that we've talked about as we've discussed these, like Article 11 insurance on page 73 of your packet, talks about the stair-stepping up of insurance on the 5-year agreement. Beginning this July, for the first year, having employees pay 3% of single and family coverage with a max dollar amount of 20 single, 40 for family. Over the 5 years of that contract, seeing those percentages and dollar caps increase from that 3% to 4, then 6, then 8, then 10, stair-stepped up over 5 years, with the maximum out-of-pockets or monthly share of the coverage being for singles going from 20 to 30 to 45, then 60 and $75 over the 5 years, and for families, the 40, 60, 75, 90, and 110. Those are the same percentages and dollar not to exceed amounts that were in the other two bargaining units that have been approved. The pay over the 5 years is also the same, 2.25% per year increase to all classifications. And you'll see the same language back on page 76. Addendum E has the maximum health insurance monthly premium, and then the attachment on the page behind it for those 5% increases to the caps. Same language as what we've had in the others. I think that each of the three, we've had a little bit better detail that we've gotten, but it's still really confusing. We've had the 5% cap in for the life of the last contract, 5% increase in those caps annually for single and family premiums. The next page of the contract, now I've gone back several pages, is that 77 now? Has what those caps are for each year, the 5% cap increases. For an example, it shows in there for FY17, health, dental, and then a reserve account for like the single is 619 maximum. How the contract works, for example, on that $619 premium, employees would be responsible for 3% with a maximum of $20 of that $619 monthly premium. The following year, it would increase to the 4% or the $30 maximum premium, but if there was an increase in the cost of the plan more than 5%, there would be the potential to, they have a responsibility as a group to either make plan design changes or pick up a portion of the cost. The language that's in here has that additional language there. If to make that, to keep us under the 5% cap increase, the employees decide to choose contributions towards, additional contributions towards the health plan that can only be $10 in a given year or $20 total during the life of the contract. What it essentially means is that we are required to have plan design changes other than that to get down below that 5% increase in costs in any given year. Or, yeah, and you see the 5% caps are listed there at the bottom on that appendix, page 77 of your contract. This is not an easy process to do. We are very unique in how we do this. It is what we've done over the last several years, and I think it's worked out pretty well. Again, as we did negotiations with the units, we talked about different options that would have potentially got rid of this 5% cap language, but we also, as part of that process, wanted to see more control over plan design for the city if we're going to do that. And because we want to have some way to mitigate our increased costs. If we have no way to, without that 5% cap, we have no other way to control costs if we leave plan design changes in employees' hands. So this is really something that allows us to continue to participate, but still puts a maximum dollar amount on what our costs are. Notwithstanding, I understand Councilman Scott's concerns about, as we've made changes in the past, some of those have included changing the self-funding, which does have some potential liability that sits out there for the city too. But this is the same structure as what the other contracts were, and would recommend approval.
Can you speak to this transit operator, lead transit
Yes.
operator, and part-time transit operator?
The full-time positions, we looked at, there was a request, they had a request to go back to where their wages had been before we made significant changes to their pay package. We did not do that, but we did make an adjustment to get them part way back to where they were before. Was that $1 an hour increase?
Yeah,
For the full-time positions?
about $1,100 a year.
And so that'd be 50 cents.
Yeah.
About a 50-cent increase. And just as a refresher for what had happened with the transit positions in the 3 years ago, when we were trying to get to budget savings and had considered different options with the transit system, they did take a pay cut with $1 an hour for for all positions, or was it $2 for full-time and 1 for part-time, or the opposite? Yeah, it's going back a long ways. But they did take a pay cut at that point, and they also took a pay freeze for the life of the contract. And this made up for a portion, but nowhere near all of that. The budget impact of that change on the contract was $7,600 for the positions that are impacted on that.
Well, thank you for sticking to the plan on that, because if you make
Well, and that was,
concessions and then come back later and get made up for the concessions, then you haven't.
that was one of the concerns that we tried to make sure that we got conveyed. This was something that was, the council at the time was making a concerted effort for how do we get to a budget that operates
Right. Remember those days?
cost effectively in a way that keeps us intact.
We didn't have an audience like this, I tell you that. Do you remember that?
We're not facing the same circumstances, but there will be a day where we do. And we did try to convey, if there's too significant a changes, we get to a point where that option becomes one that becomes a serious consideration again for the council.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done with that.
Everybody else good?
Yep.
Okay. Kathleen, let's take it a vote.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. Thanks, everybody. This is the time we'll entertain comments from the audience. Do I see any? I see none. All righty then. Mr. Tesla. Okay, Kathleen, you got anything? Okay. Councilwoman Wilson, any comments?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I recently finished the Citizens Police Academy, and that was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
On
Good
the
job.
last Saturday that we had it, we were able to.
You got tased too, right?
Yeah, I did get
I
tased.
heard the chief tased you and left it on the next rep.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart.
Completely voluntary. But we were able to shoot some weapons, and that was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would recommend anybody who's interested, check it out and try to get on that for next year. That was a really awesome opportunity, I think. So hopefully, no, that's it.
Councilman Scott.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
All right, well, we're glad to have you back from Brazil. Thanks for coming back. I want to thank the Burlington school system for letting me come in and torture the kids. I want to thank the medical assistants of Iowa for letting me come and spend some time with them Saturday morning. It was fantastic. We had medical assistants from everywhere, and they even let me tell a joke that I stole from Jamie Blow, who was here earlier. So, what do you call a guy named Charles with no legs? Ground Chuck, man. Ground Chuck. All right, anyway, and we had Earth Day this weekend, and I want to say to all the, man, you know, that was awesome, man.
Don't quit your day.
To all the members of New Fellowship and Shiner, thank you for coming and helping pick up Burlington, especially those of you that don't even live in Burlington. I appreciate you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Wow. How do you follow that?
Real easy.
Don't tell a joke.
Real easy.
Don't tell a joke. Yeah, I don't have one like that. We did have a good turnout for your Earth Day, evidently. It sounded like it. I was at Eggs and Issues while you were all out cleaning up. The best thing about Eggs and Issues was the casserole.
What? Appreciate that. Next time they're gonna have it, let everybody know. The castle.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Oh, changes things.
I wanted to be at Eggs and Issues, but I had to see a 6-year-old boy play soccer at the Redflex.
How was it? Nice crowd too?
Yeah, we shut him up.
Good deal.
And we won, I might add.
All right.
We cheated a little on the
You're not supposed to say that, Councilman. All right.
We're still on the air.
City Manager, Mr. Purnell.
Earth Day, you did have a little over 300 people attend. That's down from last year a little bit, but last year had way more Girl Scouts that were involved. This had fewer Girl Scouts, but more other members of the general public. So I think the staff felt pretty good about that.
Yep.
Staff also participated in a downtown open house, different facilities that are vacant and able to be rented, and that's the former youth center, the downstairs of the senior center that you showed. You had 9 different people,
About 7 or 8 different groups with some multiple
so I
groups.
inflated.
Yeah.
1 or 2 seemed like they were pretty excited
Yeah.
with the potential there. We'll see if something actually comes forward on
Yeah.
that. We are using that space as it is. We have an agreement with archery
Yep.
group that's using that. They're not using it a tremendous amount. So we did talk with them as we went into a lease with them that if we were able to get an entity that was going to use that space, maximize use of that space, that we would potentially look at having them have to move. So they're probably hopeful that we don't have someone show up that wants that. Soundboard. We had someone come, you had someone from, you want to come forward and talk about that?
We borrowed Mike O'Neill, he's an employee of Venue Works, who does all the sound and lights for the auditorium. So he came up Friday, and we just kind of went around and looked at all the microphones, because we had problems last meeting. And so we've identified there is a problem, but we're not sure if it's the soundboard or the amplifier. So Friday, they have a concert Wednesday night. Tickets are still available for
That's a nice one, Steph.
So after that concert, he'll bring up a piece of equipment that he's gonna try, I think he's gonna try the amplifier first, see if that fixes the problem, then we'll replace that. If not, then we'll go to the soundboard. But yeah, tonight I was up adjusting it, and yeah, we had more feedback tonight than we had last week too, so. Obviously, it's worse when there's more people in here too, because now we haven't had any since
Yeah,
everyone's kind of
right.
cleared out.
That's
but
interesting.
I was trying to adjust it, I wasn't trying to make it worse, but, so we know we have a problem, hopefully we're getting down to the issue and
Good deal.
we've got the right person looking at it, so.
That's for sure, Good deal. Thank you, Steph.
Housing study. You had 4 of you are able to attend that. I assume that there'll be some further push from the chamber as they go through thoughts on what the results were on that, and if there's any policy directions that they would like to see the council consider. So you can stay tuned for that as time goes on. Forewarned. Citywide cleanup started today. So Monday's route is this week, and it moves through the city over the next 5 weeks. So 6. Is that all? Oh, do we take a week off or something? You're done by Memorial Day? Okay. And I know that staffing-wise, you've struggled to have enough staff. You rely on some temp staff to supplement our crews during the special weeks, and that has been a challenge for you. And Chris is really hopeful that you can make that happen, because he doesn't want to have people come off of his crew to help supplement. The Apollo building, we had a discussion on that this last session, and you'd had a couple of presentations before that. I'm looking to put that back on this next session, and that's just for you all to talk about the presentations that you've had the last few weeks, and what your thoughts are and how you'd like to proceed as we move forward. So there won't be anything that's in your packet to look at, but it's just a chance for you all to talk about it. And
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And Tim, if you have some questions about what was presented, you can ask either Eric. Do you have did you get the packet that was presented this last time?
I haven't seen that yet, but I was informed by a couple of citizens about what they saw. So.
Okay. And if you want to get some perceptions, you can certainly ask someone about perceptions of how that went, or look at it online. You can watch previous videos. Does someone have an extra copy of that packet, or one that could be made? Okay.
Yeah, he's got it.
He's got
All right. The Renewable Energy Commission, or committee, they do have we give them 5,500, somewhere in that neighborhood annually.
It was $5,000.
5,000, I don't know, I can't remember,
It's
it's somewhere in that
5,000.
neighborhood. One of the projects that they're working on is some charging stations. They've got some funds from Alliant Energy. They're looking to put 5 in. I think you went through that with you, but they've got a contract they're trying to get worked out. If they can get the details on that done, the way that contract's set up, it'll either be one where there's a boilerplate for all 5 of those locations. One of those is to be down at our parking ramp, 2 at the Hy-Vee adjacent to the new gas station that's going in there, and then 2 out at SEC. There might be one overall agreement with Alliant that we then have to have sub-agreements with the other 2 entities, or there might be 3 separate agreements, which is my preference, but we'll see how that works out. Their goal was to try to have those in yet this year. We'll see if they hit that or not. The US Bank building, I think I mentioned, closing May 4, that Wednesday. We did get construction manager agency RFQs out the end of this last week to several firms to see if they'd have a potential interest in that role. That process will take, by the time it gets back to council for consideration or action as council as a whole, that's into June, where we're looking for that action to be taken. Given the time frame that we've gotten again from US Bank, their goal, if we do get the closing here in May, is to get plans submitted in July, turn dirt in September, and be out of their facility next May, was the timeline they submitted. So that puts us on a timeline, if we can get the construction manager on board, get an approved agreement with Estes for the architectural work, look at design work beginning in July. And I think that's gonna be pretty tight to be ready by next May, if indeed US Bank sticks to that schedule. Part of this process, another item that's in there is DESCOM. DESCOM's still trying to figure out where they're gonna be, whether it's gonna be in the moving over and being in the basement or being at an alternative location. One of the things that I think is of primary concern for them is not just their current needs, but also keeping themselves in a position that if we can have a combined dispatch center for multiple counties, they want to make sure that it's set up that it allows for that, that it's attractive for that. And I know that being in a basement is one thing that they're not exactly happy with, but they also want to make sure that they're in a secure location that can withstand are they at an F4, or do they have a real classification just to?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if they were to ever build a building for federal dollars, that'd be F4, but, I mean.
So preferable, they'd like to be at that F4 standard, but as close to that as possible with whatever location they're looking at, so. But they're gonna have to make a decision there too, fairly quickly on what they're doing. And I think that's it for what I have for information right now. If you have any questions.
I do have a 2-part question. When's the bridge run, and will you be ready?
The bridge run, when is that?
May 14th.
May 14. They added 0.2 of a mile. I think that might be my downfall. My running has not been as good this year.
I wondered.
But I'm still hopeful that I can beat them. So, thanks for asking on that. I don't want to have to get too many meals bought.
Is that a pipe dream, or you think it's a reality?
For what?
Hopeful.
Eric, I
8
barely
seconds.
beat you last time. 8 seconds?
Yeah.
So, he passed me on the bridge.
But who's counting, right?
But who's counting? And I know I'm not running as good, so we'll see how this all works out.
Oh, boy. Okay. I know you'll beat me.
Yeah, I'm hoping the police chief runs.
We were just talking, we're putting together all the staff, a relay team.
A relay team.
By all of them.
Oh, geez.
That's a good idea, Chief.
You know what? It's
All
time
of
to
you will
shut
have
this
to
down. It's
split
getting
a
out of
meal
control,
if you do it
Bob.
as a relay team.
Bob has something to say.
No, I don't, just adjourn is all.
Well, that's it.
Okay,
I second.
thank you. Let's take it to vote.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Yeah.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, Don. It's Don's birthday.
Thank you.
It's not. I just wanted to say that on the air. I know it.